going to do odds again. What kind of problem is number 1? Distribute. I don't know. Remember, when you multiply the letters together, you only add the exponents. So 5x times 4x squared is 20x cubed. Maybe we can go through this quickly, maybe not actually. We'll see. On number 3, how do we do 3a minus 5 squared? Well, you have to take the whole thing times the whole thing. The whole thing times itself. So it is a FOIL. What's first? 3a times 3a? Outside. Inside. Last. Negative 5 times negative 5. And remember, usually when you FOIL, the middle terms are like terms, so they can add together. Negative 15a minus 15a is negative 30a. Number 5, how do you factor? There's 3 main ways we learn to factor. Well, 3 or 4, depending on how you list them. The first one was like take stuff out. You guys remember this? Like, for example, if we had 3a squared minus 9a, we could take a 3a, because both of those are divisible by 3a. So you take a 3a out, and if you divide both of those by 3a, what you're left with goes inside. Okay, that's take stuff out. Second was a square minus a square. Squares are things that have square roots. Okay, square minus a square, they factor to 2 parentheses. What's the square root of a squared? A and a. What goes into negative 9? 3 and 3, but 1 should be negative. So that's how square minus square works. The one that we did the most was like these, the 3-term deals. And they also do like 2 parentheses. What goes into 9a squared? What goes into 25? And if there's a number on front, you have to say that when you FOIL it, it adds up to should add up to 30. What goes into 25 is 5 and 5. Outside, inside should add up to that. So 15a adds up to 30a, so they need to be negative, which is what we had up there. Anyway, that's just a really super fast review. I'm just kind of hoping you guys didn't forget everything. So in 5, it's b squared minus 9, which I kind of accidentally did that as an example. So how is b squared minus 9 going to factor? It's a square minus a square. It's basically this thing. So what goes into b squared? B and b. No. What goes into negative 9? 3 and negative 3. Okay, 7c squared plus 44c plus 12. There were, I think we did a few problems this chapter that they didn't factor. I don't think it was any on this assignment though, if I remember right. Oh, no, it's not right. Well, maybe it is right.
On 4, you just take the x and the 2 by everything, right?
Yeah, on 4 you'd multiply everything by x and everything by 2. Okay, on this one, so it's 3-term factoring. What goes into 7c squared? 7c and 1c. For the back, you would say what multiplies into 12? 6 and 2, or 3 and 4. So if you try 6 and 2, the way you check it is you FOIL the outside and the inside and see if that gives you the middle term. This would be 14c plus 6c is 20c, so that doesn't work. So if 6 and 2 doesn't work though, maybe 2 and 6 works. So now the outside is, Now the outside is 42c, and the inside is 2c, and that does add up to 42c. So this one is correct. Do we need to solve for c? No. When do we solve for c? When it's in equals, yeah, like equals 0, which is like later on. Number 9. Oh, we didn't do 9, sorry. Number 11. Okay, well, you guys remember like the white calculators can handle these. This one's actually not too bad. If you don't have a white calculator, you can just plug square root of 63 in and just put I in your answer. You guys recall this?
Wait, how do you find the I on the calculator?
On the white one, you hit shift and then the ENG, yeah.
Are we doing?
And your calculator needs to be in complex mode if it's not. Mode, complex. Complex numbers are just like -2 plus 3i. It just means there's an imaginary number in there.
Are we doing 10? It won't let me.
No, we're only doing the odds also. Number 11, if I had to do this by hand, okay, it would be 3 square root of 7, but the negative inside the square root always turns into an I. So it's negative 3i square root of 7. Did you figure it out?
No, it won't let me do
It might have already been. It should work now. But you don't need to plug in I, you just need to plug in like that. Negative square root of negative 63. Anyways, 13. My Y calculators might not be available because, you know, there'll be a lot of kids taking the fun. 3 plus 9i, 1 minus I. I might try to give you guys priority since you are the highest grade. Kyle already has one. 3 plus 9i. Well, actually, there is pre-calculus. Okay, this problem is actually pretty easy. It's an addition problem. You only add or subtract like terms. So 3 plus 1, 9i minus 1i, 8i. So you just treat I like a variable. Like it's an x. Unless you do I times I. Alright, 17, or 15, this is what kind of problem? Right, distribute. So 7i times 3 is 21i. 7i times I, what's that? It's 7i squared. But what does I squared always turn into? -1. So this is 7 times -1, which is -7. They actually like you to put the real number in front and the imaginary number in back. So -7 plus 2i. And altogether they call this a complex number. That's why the calculator needs to be in complex mode if you want to do it from a calculator. Alright, 17. X squared minus 4x minus 13.
Wait, can we do quadratic formula on these?
No. I mean, you can plug all the numbers in on those, but no, there's no solve it automatically thing. Okay, 17, do they want to solve by factoring? Yeah. On the test, if you want to solve using quadratic formula, it's okay. By the way, if you don't have that memorized, this would maybe be a good note for you to write down for the test. Sometimes you have to use quadratic formula to solve, but sometimes factoring works, such as 17 and 19. So the question would be, okay, what goes into x squared, x times x? What goes into -32? multiplies into that, that would add up to negative 4.
Negative 2 and 2.
Well, that multiplies to negative 4, but you need what what multiplies into negative 32. That would add up to 4. So yeah, it's 8 and 4. And to add up to negative 4, the 8 would have to be negative. Okay, so positive 4 and negative 8. Okay, now we actually do need to solve this. What x values would make these factors equal 0? Negative 4 or 8. 19. What do we need to do first on number 19? 6, 6. Well, you could take something out, but actually I would pull over. Remember, we kind of need everything to one side on these quadratic equations. So I would subtract the 8 over first. Yeah, you could take a 2 out on this one, or instead of taking it out, since it's an equation, you could divide both sides by 2. 0 divided by 2 will still be 0, but if you divide everything by 2, the numbers will be smaller, and that makes it easier to factor. So what goes into 3x squared? 3x times x. What multiplies into negative 4? Well, it could be 2 and negative 2, but if you try that, you're going to find it won't work. It could be like 1 and negative 4. In this case, it's going to be negative 1, 4, because when you FOIL it, outside is 12, inside is minus 1. Okay, but if that's how it factors, what are the answers? Well, this one's negative 4, but do you guys know what x value would make this equal 0? Right, positive 1/3. Good. Did remember. Solved by taking roots. What they mean by taking roots is take the square root of both sides. But before you do that, you kind of need, you can take square root of both sides only when it's a very simple equation. So if it's like x squared plus x equals nothing, this you cannot take square root of both sides. It's just not going to help you. But if you can get x squared by itself, that's when you can take the square root of both sides. So how do I get x squared by itself? I would divide the 2. Okay, but this does have a trick. How do I get rid of the square? Square root. Okay, square root of 40, if you plug that in your calculator, you will get...
80 was next to the 2 whenever it started, so it'd be negative 80 on that side.
Huh. 80 was on the wrong side?
Yeah, it was 2x plus 80 equals 0.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so 80 was on the wrong side. So to get x by itself, we would have had to subtract 80. So that should actually be negative 40. Okay, if it's negative, that means I is going to be in our answer, but it's still 2 square root of 5, or 2 square root of 10, I mean. But anytime you use the square root trick, you guys remember that? There was a plus or minus in the answer. So if you have a kind of average calculator, square root of 40, it would turn into 2 square root of 10. So you need to know that the negative turns into an I, and also when you do the square root trick, you have to put a plus or minus. 23, am I going fast? Okay, on complete the square, we only did this a little bit. I think I might go ahead and skip 25. I kind of want you to know this, but I'm not. Because complete the square is not normally as efficient as quadratic formula. So we focused on quadratic formula. Okay, I'll do this one with complete the square though. There are some different situations you kind of have to know this. You take the number, the b term, the number in front of the x, you divide it by 2, and then you square it. Is that Polar Express? ELF.
I hate that movie.
Music.
ELF?
Yes.
Get out of my classroom.
No, that's what I was about to say.
I'm only saying no with
Get out.
Mr. Steele. That is it.
That is easily the best Christmas movie.
I mean, my mom bought it this year, but I still haven't watched it yet. The most annoying Christmas movie ever.
Okay.
My mom and dad watched it 24/7 during Christmas time.
You know what, you're offending Elf right now.
I don't
So
care.
just
I
use-
hate that actor.
If your dad were here, he would
Yeah, he was very
Be
disappointed.
disappointed.
give you a whooping. Alright.
We'll pass.
6 squared is 36. So what you're going to do is you add 36 to both sides. The reason, if you add it to one side, you have to add it to the other side to keep it equal. The reason that you do that is because the left side factors perfectly. What multiplies into 36, that adds up to 12. 6 and 6. So it's x plus 6, or x plus 6 squared. This adds up to 4. Okay, how do we get rid of this square? Square root it. Well, when we square root something, this will become plus or minus 2. And then, yeah, we didn't do it a lot. We did it some, though. I spent a day on it. Anyways, to solve for x, you subtract 6. So this is 2 minus 6, and it's negative 2 minus 6. There's 2 answers. Anyway, quadratic formula is generally better, so I didn't make us do that very much. There are some cases where you kind of have to use that. But, so I'm going to go, let's skip 25. We'll call that good. 27, quadratic formula. All right. I wrote it earlier, so if you guys need it in your notes, I hope you got it. Does anybody need me to write it again?
Negative b plus or minus squared, negative minus 4 times a.
We're just talking about some.
Yeah, that's right. I'll go ahead and write it. Usually if people write it wrong, it's because they put the division bar like that instead of like that. So the whole thing. So A, B, and C. What's my A, B, and C on 27?
3, negative 2, negative 1.
Right. The 1 is on the wrong side. So to get it in standard form, you would have to subtract it over. So it should actually be a negative 1. Okay, I'm sure you guys remember plugging this stuff in your calculator a lot. Negative b is positive 2. Okay, here's where a lot of people get it wrong. If I plug in negative 2 squared right there, it will be wrong. You guys know why? Because you're supposed to square the negative, which means that should be in parentheses. Minus 4ac over 2a. Also, if your calculator doesn't do imaginary, that could run into some problems with the calculator. Yeah, this one comes out nice though. This is 4 plus 12, so it's 16. Square root of 16 is 4. So if I was doing this by hand, I'd have this. 2 plus 4 is 6, divided by 6 is 1. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 6 is negative 1/3. Sometimes the square root doesn't come out nice. You guys remember that? It's like square root of 13 or something. That actually makes the answer easier though, because you don't simplify it. You just leave the square root of 13. That's probably what's going to happen on 29. On 29, what's my A, B, and C? 6, 2, 1. No trick. No tricks there. 6, 2, 1. So negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC over 2A would look like that. This will come out negative in the square root, which means your calculator might have an issue with it if you're not using the white calculator. Looks like 4 minus 24, which is negative 20. So that's imaginary number, which your calculator might not be able to do. So if the way you could do it is just plug in square root of 20 and let your calculator simplify that, and then you add the I in by hand. But square root of 20 is 2 square root of 5. So it's 2I squared of 5. Remember when it was imaginary, we also split it up. Like the imaginary number goes over here, so 12 is under this and 12 is under that. Then these reduce. That reduces. And we usually put the I, if it was a fraction, off to the side there. That's a 5. Can you guys read that? There, beautiful. Are you jealous, Ava, of my handwriting?
No, why would I be?
Because it's like 1,000 times better than yours.
Sure.
Confidence.
Very confident.
Brianna's jealous.
Very, yeah.
That's right, just a minute.
I aim to be as good as you with anything.
Someday. Probably not, but maybe.
Are you recording this?
Yep.
Oh.
On the off chance somebody wants to watch it. Well, we are missing like 3 people. Or maybe somebody would watch it because I'm going too fast, and you can pause it.
I don't really care.
I usually speed it up and just write down.
You know what? I'm going to make us take the final next to you.
No.
I'm going to make it happen.
Mr. Frederick said he's gonna have like 25 people in his classroom during finals for history.
I've got 40.
Oh. Yeah, but you have both these rooms.
Yeah,
He has one room,
it's going to be crowded.
and I have to take his final. I'm not-
Third hour, I fit 28 in here, and it was very crowded. People are sitting like this.
We always go into Mr. Frederick's classroom that smells like B.O. every single day. Because the class
Like,
before
you
us
can
has
feel
like
like
It smells bad and it's hot.
Yeah,
Makes it even
that's my third hour.
I think you can.
Well, the 4th hour complains because 3rd hour. So you guys are lucky that you're 5th hour. Well, yeah, you got the same problem. All right, I lost my place. 31. Determine the number and nature of the roots. I didn't have you guys do this very much either. The number and nature of the roots has to do with it's called the discriminant. The discriminant is the thing under the square root, this part, on the quadratic formula. And based on what comes out of that, you know what kind of answers you're going to get from the quadratic formula. If it comes out negative, for example, then you're going to get two complex answers. If it comes out positive and it has a nice square root, then you're going to get 2 rational answers, which means kind of like 2 normal answers. If it comes out positive with not a nice square root, I'll just say not good, square root. Then you're gonna get 2 irrational answers. To be honest, I probably didn't put this one on the final. I probably just put the normal quadratic formula. If it comes out 0, but like if you guys take college algebra, this will be on there. If it comes out as 0, you're gonna get 1 rational answer. So anyway, you kind of just do the short, just this part of the quadratic formula. It's actually not that hard. Anyway, so b squared minus 4ac, in this case 25 plus 8 is 33. Okay, so it's positive. Does it have a nice square root? Does 33 have a nice square root? No. Like 36 has a nice square root, right? Not 30. So if it's positive, I don't know why I put a t right there. But not a good square root, you're gonna get 2 irrational. 2 irrational means like 2 square root answers, basically. They said solve it, but I'm gonna skip that part. We'll just stop right there on that one. What's the next one? 3, negative 11, negative 42. So b squared minus 4ac. Oof, this might be hard for me to do. It's gotta be positive something. 420 plus 84. 504. 625. Oh, that does have a square root, I think. I think that's square root of that is 25. If you plug square root of 625 in, you should get 25. So it actually has a nice square root. So that means you should get 2 normal answers, 2 rational answers. Solve, use whatever method you want to. Alright, how would you guys solve this one? Well, you could. If you use quadratic formula, what would your a, b, and c be?
4, negative 12, and 0.
Oh, that's correct. So Ava said, like, subtract the 12x over. So 4, negative 12, and there is no constant, so 0. You could do quadratic formula. Does anybody know another way to do this one? Yeah, you could factor. You could take what comes out of both of these. 4x. If you divide both of these by 4x, you get that. So what x values would make this equal 0?
0.
Yeah, isn't that easier in quadratic formula?
No, I like
Yeah, alright. Well, quadratic formula should work also. 3x squared plus 7 equals 2x plus 1. Okay, so on this one, since 33, no, 37. Remember, normally we want to move everything to one side, right? So I'm going to subtract 2x and 1 over here. But remember, only like terms go together when you're adding and subtracting, so it'll look like that. Quadratic formula, maybe? Does it factor? Hard to figure it out.
It does factor.
How do you know?
Because I've already done it.
No. Working ahead, huh?
Yeah, because I want to do this.
Well, you already did it, though.
I know, I'm just wasting my time.
It doesn't.
Quadratic, it does.
2 and 3. I don't.
Oh, she said with quadratic.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't
I was
think
like,
that doesn't factor. Didn't look like it was working. So yeah, quadratic formula. So negative b, here's ABC. Plus or minus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Oh, you said it factored.
And that went quadratic.
So be 4 minus 72 is negative 68. Yeah, it's kind of a mess. Since it's imaginary, you gotta split this up. 2 over 6 is 1/3. Yeah, I'll just go ahead. I'm gonna do one step at a time. Did he have you guys do something today?
Yeah.
Mr. Frederick?
Yeah, I haven't had this class yet. Well, at least us three have.
No, we watched up to.
You need to repent of your sins, Ava.
No.
Enjoy the movie.
Nobody will not repent.
I'm gonna call Santa on you.
We're gonna like revoke your citizenship. It's part of being American. You gotta like that movie.
Well, I'm more American than you are, so.
You're half white, by the way. Yes, you are. You can't just choose what you identify as.
I know.
Identify it as a computer.
Yeah, I'm a computer guy, so. We just know I'm doing 39 and 43.
3941. Good yes, let's do that. Good point, Ava.
I said, let's not. It's almost time to go.
We just have 10 minutes.
I don't care.
Oh, sorry, look at that time. 2 minutes left to talk.
Alright, so these two are a little bit tricky. You kind of start off the same, like factoring, or you could use quadratic formula. They'll probably give you something that factors. You guys know what multiplies into negative 27?
9 and 3.
9 and 3, but that adds up to negative 6.
Negative 9 and 3.
Okay, so if this were a normal equation, the answers would be negative 3 and positive 9. Okay, if it's a greater than though, actually what's going to happen is your answers are going to be smaller than the small one or bigger than the big one. So x is less than negative 3 or x is greater than 9. So it's a little bit different than the equations. You can't just put negative 3 and 9. If it's a greater than problem, it's going to be outside the two answers. And if it's a less than problem, it'll be inside the two answers.
Like, the noise from Elf is just annoying itself.
Okay, we're just going to go 41. We won't do 42. 2x squared minus 5x less than 1.
I just got a bear in the leg with a pencil in like elementary.
You should not stab your classmates.
I was stabbing the
Wasn't
neck.
on purpose.
No. Okay, what should we do first on this one? Bring that guy over. You miss Barrett.
No. It's annoying.
I already got to do it.
I don't think this is going to factor, darn it.
No, listen.
Did I copy it right? Unfortunately, yes. So we're going to have to do quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared. You gave you or you gave him?
No, he gave me a black eye.
Okay, so this is 25 plus 8 is 33. This one's kind of a mess. So those are if it was an equation, that would be the two answers. There's two answers because one's a plus and one's a minus. Okay, but since it's a less than, you actually set up x between the two answers. It's going to be, the smaller answer goes over here, x is bigger than the small one, and the bigger answer goes over here. X is between the two answers. So what's the smaller answer? Would be the one with the minus. What's the bigger answer? plus